All right, fight fans, welcome to another edition of No Stand 8. And today on my show, I have no stranger in the boxing community. He's a writer and a correspondent for the Ring magazine, a regular guest on several national sports and radio shows. He's a voter in the International Boxing Hall of Fame. He is the host of the Neutral Recorder podcast. He is also a personality on boxing Twitter, loved by many, hated often by a few. and he is a former Marine by the way of Detroit, Michigan. Please give a warm welcome to none other than Michael Montero. Mike, how are you doing today?
Doing good, man. Doing good. I'm a little tired. I got my road work in. I got a little sparring in this morning, so I'm I'll try to keep the energy up, but I'm like, it's nap time, man. You know what I'm saying?
I could see you look a little, not your usual charismatic self, but
yeah.
I'm pretty sure you're gonna pull through for us today.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me on.
So, Mike, here in about 14 days, you're gonna be fighting. You're the main attraction in a charity boxing event. And we're mostly here to talk about that today. But initially, for those that may not know you, which I highly doubt, let people know your journey, how you got to this point. How did you get to be where you are today in the boxing community?
Well, as you mentioned, I was born in Detroit, and I was in the Marine Corps. Lived in a couple of different places, but I ended up in Los Angeles at the age of 29. And I lived out there throughout my 30s. And I just moved to Atlanta a couple of years ago. While I was in LA, I had always loved boxing. I grew up in, a family that watched boxing. And my dad, he would literally steal cable to get the Mike Tyson fights. And then we'd see the cable man come on the block, and my dad would be, oh shit, he'd run outside. That green box in the neighborhood, and he'd turn it off. Then the cable man would leave, you go back out there and turn it back on. So that's what we were doing, when I was a kid. We were, stealing the Mike Tyson fights back in the day on HBO. So that, I grew up loving the sport, and I started kind of writing and blogging about it on free sites in my 20s. Old school sites like eastsideboxing.com and stuff like that. I didn't know how to formulate a sentence, man. I could barely put a damn sentence together, but I just got my opinion out there and kept doing that. And when I wound up in LA, I got laid off from a couple of jobs, and I just decided that I'm going to go for it and move out there. The first time I saw LA is when I was in the Marine Corps. I was stationed at 29 Palms in California, which is, I don't know, maybe a couple hours inland. It's out in the desert, inland from LA. And one time on leave, me and my boys went out to LA to check it out. I was like, man, it was like another planet from Detroit. You know what I'm saying? From where I grew up. So I always wanted to check it out. And I wound up there and hanging out at gyms, hanging out with people, working out, talking boxing, and then, sharing some of the things I had written. I ended up getting hooked up with a guy that he was from Texas, and the Los Angeles Matadors were starting up. It was the World Series of Boxing. And for the first couple of years, America had a few teams, and there was one in LA. And this dude from Texas, he knew one of the members of the Los Angeles Matadors because he was from Texas too. And he knew a local Texas newspaper and said, hey, I could get you media credentials to cover our guy. I didn't know what the hell media credentials were, bro. I honestly I'm like, what is that? I had to Google it. But so that's how I started, man. I started going to those World Series of Boxing fights. And that's probably 2009, something like that. And that's when I started. And I just worked my way up from there. And I got in touch with Doug Fisher, the editor of Ring Magazine, and Steve Kim. We all worked together at the Undisputed Champion Network, which is no more. But for a few years, I worked there. And I worked on a show called 10 Count. And sometimes I would host, sometimes I'd be a guest. And that's how I got to know those guys. And they've really looked out for me. They've kind of been mentors to me. There's been several others. Mark Butcher is a British boxing writer that saw something in me and brought me on to Boxing Monthly magazine, which is a British fight magazine that unfortunately during COVID went under. So it's no more. But I actually started working with Boxing Monthly before Ring. And so they gave me a huge jump in my career, but it's just been one thing after another, man. I've just built things up, and I really did it from the ground up, man. I have no education in this. I've kind of had to learn the hard way through screwing up and figuring out, learning from my screw ups, getting better every day. Started my podcast a few years ago, and I was literally just sitting in my living room, just talking into a little camera, and now I built a studio in my home here in Atlanta, where I do my show every week for Ring Magazine. I'm pretty blessed, man. I'm pretty happy with where I'm at.
Man, and I tell you what, you're one of the best that does it, and you have a good following. And when you could garner the kind of reactions that you do, you're doing something right, brother.
Yeah. I mean, they say when I start getting haters and stuff, like I used to get annoyed at that stuff, but I've had so many people tell me, dude, that means you're doing something right. You should have haters. They should be calling you this, that, the other. That means you're doing something right.
So you're kind of like what I would have dubbed you as the Renaissance man in boxing. You do a little bit of everything to include putting on the gloves. How long have you actually been competing?
Officially competing in like sanctioned fights, this could be my first one, man. I've trained. I mean, I started training in the Marine Corps, that was 20 years ago. So I've hung out at gyms, I've worked out, I've sparred probably hundreds of rounds. But I've been close to competing, but I always made some excuse. Something in life came up, an injury, a breakup with a girlfriend, I lost my job, something like that. I'd let it get in the way of consistently training and following through. But now I'm fighting for something bigger than me with this fight coming up later this month. And I've been dealing with real life things. I've had financial issues this year. I've been working through multiple injuries, family stuff, and I'm not letting anything stop me, man. I'm fighting September 16th.
Awesome. When I was talking to Amy, who set this all up for us,
right?
When she told me about your story, I told her on the phone that I literally had the hairs on the back of my neck stand up, because I think you and I, when we talk more personally offline, you and I will see if we share a similar story. So
okay,
yeah. So that leads you to this event that you're going to partake in here on the 16th of September. And tell us a little bit something about that event. Who's running it? Why you're so motivated to fight in it? Kick us off with that.
Okay, so last November, right before the holidays, my brother Anthony died. My younger brother. I'm the oldest. Anthony was the middle child, and then I have a sister, Jennifer. She's the youngest. Anthony died, and I went to great lengths during the summer to get him out of a bad situation. I was here in Atlanta. He was in Long Beach, California. He got mixed up with some gang dudes, got mixed up in some crime things and drugs. And he was in a situation where the street was going to take him, the law was going to take him, he was going to take himself, or drugs were going to take him. And there was actually a contract on his head. We found out there was dudes that were trying to whack him out. I had friends that were out there and saw him, and they called me. This was in August, and they said, Mike, you got to get out here, man. It's bad. He's one step away from death, and there's these dudes here looking for him. It's not good. So during the height of the COVID pandemic, shit's locked down, nothing's open. I got a flight, went out there to LA, didn't even tell him. I just showed up at his apartment one day and literally, drug him out of the house, kicking and screaming. Yeah, I rented a van. I threw as much of his stuff in a van as I could, and I drove across the country. And I took him to my dad's house, and we tried to get him cleaned up. My brother had struggled with mental health and addiction issues much of his adult life. We grew up in a rough neighborhood. We grew up around that kind of thing. And for whatever reason, I always strayed from that stuff, man. I never got into drugs or anything like that, but he did. It sucked him in. And we got him cleaned up for a couple months, but he was staying with my dad. I was here in Atlanta, I got a wife, I got my job, I'm doing all these things. I couldn't watch him. So my dad was watching him, but ultimately he convinced my family that he was ready to go back to Cali, and he went out there. A few weeks later, he was dead. So, after that, I went through a pretty bad depression. I was pretty busted up for a minute. He was my best friend, man. We grew up together, slept in the same damn bed. There was a point when we were kids where we had the same coat. Remember the old school triple fat goose?
Do I know it?
we had the Triple Fat Goose Raiders coat, and we'd be waiting for the bus, and I'd be wearing it, and he'd be freezing his ass off, and I'd take it off. He'd put it on. I'd freeze my ass off, and we'd take turns wearing it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how close we were. Like, we would share clothes and stuff like that. You know, there was some tough times. We had been through a lot of things, and you know, a lot of difficult things that I wouldn't wish on people. And so when he went, man, it was like a part of me going. It was almost like he was my twin brother. You know, people used to say that about us. So this January, it was, you know, 2 months after he died, we had a memorial service. We wanted to have it earlier, but COVID delayed it several times. So we finally had it in January. And after that service, I don't know, something in me just said, you know what, man, I'm going to put this all together, and I'm going to do a fight somewhere, somehow, some way in 2021 and dedicate this to my brother. And it just so happened that Terry Moss, the owner of Buckhead Fight Club here in Atlanta, I got in touch with her through Amy Green, the publicist, the same person who hooked us up. And she told me about the corporate fight night event that she does. And usually they bring on like bankers and lawyers and stuff like that to box. But this year they actually have a lot of actual boxing people involved. I'd say more than half the fights, the people have years of boxing training and experience. So it's going to be really, really high quality fights. But she told me it was coming up, and, you know, it was actually Amy that said, you know, would you want to do this? I was like, yeah, absolutely. So I've been just focused on that pretty much all year, man. I mean, I started training lightly in January, but I was heavy. That road work was tough, you know, and it took a couple months just to get weight down and then start focusing on boxing. My first sparring session, I was so out of shape, dude. I broke 2 ribs. That's how out of shape I was. I got cracked and, you know, busted a couple ribs. So that let me know, like, okay, I need to get my butt in shape. Yeah. And it's been pretty good overall, but, you know, I'm 42. So injuries happen, man. And last month I actually tore a pec minor muscle. So I've been dealing with that. And it's always something. But like I said, man, like, I'm not letting anything get in the way. I'm doing this September 16th for my brother Anthony.
That's great, and I admire your resiliency, your motivation. But hey, listen, that comes from a lot of places. You know, that comes from, of course, our childhood. Because growing up in the late '70s and especially in the mid '80s, many of us are not unscathed to that era, the things that happened in the inner cities.
That era. Absolutely.
So we had to build some toughness and some resiliency that alone. But then, of course, you being a veteran and me being a veteran, you have to build some resiliency to get through the service.
Absolutely.
So I'm pretty sure being a Marine has had a lot to do with that. So I thank you for sharing your story. I know that each time you tell it, it probably cuts deep. Yeah. So I appreciate you sharing that story. And I think what you're going to do is on the 16th is going to be great. And I think it's an awesome way to honor your brother and to bring awareness to such a hot button issue in the United States today and across the world, frankly, with mental health and
especially since COVID, man.
Especially since COVID, and of course, drug addiction has always plagued us, and it'll continue to plague us, you know. And so, but bringing awareness to that kind of thing is amazing. And for me to you, I appreciate what you're doing with that.
Thank you, man. And I should mention that it's a charity event. I totally forgot to mention that it's a charity event, and Brian Jordan, there's the Brian Jordan Foundation here in Atlanta. Terry Moss, the promoter, knows him. And he, former Atlanta Braves baseball player, I think he was in the Atlanta Falcons. He was like a 2-3 sport stud, this guy. But he has a charity service here. And they got us connected with the Ridgeview Institute, which is a facility here in the Atlanta area that gives people aid that are suffering with mental health, drug addiction, alcoholism, those sorts of things. And we are the proceeds from our ticket sales, from the pay-per-view sales. There's going to be a live stream on the WBC network. The WBC has been awesome, by the way, absolutely awesome. It's going to be $12. And then there's tickets if you're in Atlanta and want to go to the fight. And then there's even just a way you could just donate to the event. I have those links I can send you. But the proceeds are going to go to this facility. So for me personally, to be able to fight not only honoring my brother, but in his name, I'm going to help raise money to help people suffering from the things that took his life. Dude, like it just doesn't get any more personal than that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I've been following you, and I follow you. I've followed you for quite some time now. And one of the things that you put up was it was interesting. Your first press conference for this fight, and how was it like being on the other side
Yeah.
of the press conference this time around?
Dude, I'll admit, man, there was nerves, dude. You know what I mean? Like I've been to a million of those press conferences. You have too, right? And it gets to be like a routine, and you're like, okay, this person's gonna come talk, and this person's gonna come talk, and you take some pictures, you know. But I was not only, am I a fighter on this event, but I'm a fighter with, I'm using my profile to help this charity and everything else. So I didn't expect this, but they brought me up to speak, and I'm like, what? I had my jacket off, so I had to put my jacket because I was wearing a suit.
You had to do an impromptu speech.
Yeah, man. Yeah, literally. So I pulled that out of my butt, dog. I just went up there, just spoke, and pretty much just told them, my story, like I just told you. And then later on, they brought me up with my opponent. We got, face to face, and I could see he's motivated, man. He looked serious. You know what I'm saying? He was tense. His arms were,
Yeah, I saw that.
Good stare down, right?
Yeah,
we held that shit for at least a minute.
Yeah,
so it was a good stare down.
Yeah, you guys look good. And I was actually going to ask you about your opponent. Did you know anything about him? Was that the first time meeting him?
I had seen him before at Terry's gym, and I had talked to a couple guys that he's sparred with, and just getting a little bit of inside info if I can.
Of course.
I've never seen him, but they say he hits like a truck. He works with his hands. I think he's like a metal worker or welder or something like that. So he's got like a little Joe Smith Jr. in him, that kind of guy that works with his hands. And he's my height. His arms are as long as mine. So he's going to have, I'm not really going to have, usually I have a reach advantage when I'm sparring and training and stuff, but he's every bit as tall and long as I am. So I got a few ideas, a few things that we're going to do. But it's going to be a good fight, man, because this guy's motivated. He's going to come out and try to take my head off in that first round.
That's right. I'm excited to see it. If I can't be there in person, I'm definitely going to watch it.
Awesome.
Stream. So, but I'm excited to see it. It looks like it's going to be a good fight. It looks like you put the work in. I think you said something on Twitter today that you're doing 2 jobs plus working out plus something else. So
plus keeping a wife happy.
Yeah, trying to keep the
renovating this house we bought here in Atlanta.
Right,
yeah, man.
All the things that go on with being married. I've been married 26 years myself. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
congrats,
man. So,
brother.
Yeah, no,
that's awesome, man.
Thank you, appreciate it. And you said if you could do it, then nobody else should have any excuses.
Damn right, man. When I weighed myself at the end of January when I got done with my brother's memorial service. And I weighed 239. And right now I weighed myself this morning, I'm 210. So, I've cut off 29 pounds and I've always had a lean frame. But that 20 some odd pounds, dude, that was just alcohol in bad food. Cause I was depressed, and
brother, I understand.
Start drinking and it's like, damn, it's Tuesday night. I'm having a beer. What am I doing? After a while, it's like, and now, I haven't drank in a while and I don't miss it at all, man. I feel good.
And if I'm not mistaken, your background, your family background, you're from Italian descent.
I'm a mutt. But yeah. My father's Latin, mostly Italian, but there's Spanish too. Montero is actually a Spanish name.
Yeah.
And my mother's Eastern European.
Gotcha.
So I have the Latin and the Slavic heritage.
Yeah. So the reason why I mentioned that was because aside from the alcohol, then we got the food factor.
Oh shit. Yeah.
So
yeah, man. I'm all Italian when it comes to food, man.
Exactly,
I grew up more with that culture and with the food and all that. Yeah.
And I'm Puerto Rican though.
Oh man, Puerto Rican food is awesome, dog.
Yeah, bro, so tell me about it, man. We have to contest with that temptation all the time.
Oh, yeah. Every time I'm in New York, man, that's where you get really great Puerto Rican food up there, man.
Oh yeah.
Florida too. You can find it, but
absolutely.
Yeah.
So listen, Mike, you are doing a wonderful thing with this. And I know that it's going to a good cause. And yeah, please send me those links, and I'll make sure that they'll be posted on the
Okay.
video where fans can watch. And so, aside from the charity perspective and what you hope to achieve with that, what do you hope to achieve with this? Do you think this will bring some closure for you?
I hope, man. I kind of, I'm almost kind of scared because I don't know what's going to happen after the fight. I don't know if I'm going to have a breakdown, you know, and just, I feel like I've been holding on to my brother a lot because, you know, you come home with headaches, shit's busted up, it hurts. And you don't want to go back some mornings, you know, some mornings it's early, you're all stiff, you're cold, you don't want to go spar at 9 in the morning like I am tomorrow. You know, sometimes you don't want to do it, but I've been talking to my brother, you know, like hey man, help me push through this because I'm doing this for you, you know. And what I hope is that after doing this, I can like turn a page and turn to a new chapter, you know. I've been with my wife, Tiffany, for 8 years. We just celebrated our anniversary, but we've only been married 1 year of it, you know. We moved out here to Atlanta, got married, bought the house, and we're thinking about starting a family next year. So it's like, part of me feels like before I can really do that and be like this dad with the house, cutting the grass and, you know, doing all that, I gotta, I don't know if it's closing this chapter, but at least turning this page. And this is something I can personally do for my brother that no one else in my family is doing. You know, it's a special thing because I'm the older brother and I feel that, I don't know, responsibility, you know what I mean? To honor him in a special way.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, again, people that follow you know that you are dedicated to a lot of things, and this includes your marriage. And you guys comment on each other's posts, and you know,
Everyone knows her, you know, because I share pictures. And
yeah, man, I do the same. When you saw when I went to cover Christy Martin's event, I put my picture of my wife up, and she goes everywhere with me. So back when I used to fight, I picked up my fighting in the Army as well, just like you did in the Marines, and I competed in the amateurs, won a couple of smokers, nothing major.
Awesome.
But she too picked up boxing. Does your wife do a little bit of
hell yeah, bro? Yeah, see, we pick good ones, man. We pick good ones.
So, so have you been caught with a right cross from this?
She loves punching me. So I got her working with my coach. I'm working with Christian Steele, who is a pro fighter out of Philadelphia. He moved down here and opened up a gym. And so I'm working with him and a couple of other guys, pro fighters. And man, when you work with pros, it's humbling, dog. You know what I mean? Like it's the skills, because these guys, they don't think about it, they just do it, you know.
That's right.
But I got even back in LA when I met Tiffany, my wife. We lived in a apartment building, and we would go up to the roof, the helicopter pad, and we'd work out up there sometimes. It was pretty cool. And I do mitts with her, teach her combinations, teach her footwork, little things like that. And now she's working with my coach. She'll go once a week, sometimes twice a week, and work with him. And she's really getting some levels to her, man. I'm trying to convince her that maybe next year she can do this, she can fight. But she'll come home and be like, oh, we worked on this combo today. And she'll hit me. And I'm like, I'm brittle. Yeah. Come on, I'm sore. What are you doing? She's little, but she's mighty.
Yeah, you know it, man. Yeah, I had the same situation when I was in the gym, and she was training with I was working out at Grady Brewer's gym.
Amy told me that. Yeah, she told me that.
And she started getting really good. And one day I was like, yeah, do this. I was just casually, and she popped me with a jab that I didn't even see coming. I was like, hey.
Yeah, right. It's like, whoa, where'd that come from? Okay. All right.
Yeah. So listen, that kind of wraps up the formal part of the interview, that I really wanted to capture that story and capture, the charity event and what you're doing with Terry Mars and Buckhead Fighting Club. So listen, I'd be remiss if I had you on the line and then talk some boxing with you.
Oh, hell yeah, man. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
what is the backlash with Ugas? Man, he won the fight. Why do people hate on this dude so much?
I don't know, man. Yeah, kind of, when Timothy Bradley beat Pacquiao, right? I remember in that first fight, which was a robbery. Everyone knows Pacquiao won that fight. Everybody got mad at Bradley. And I remember thinking, like, he's not the damn judges. Why are you mad at him? So this is kind of similar to that, but a little different because Ugas actually beat Pacquiao. I had it 116, 112. And, Pacquiao's a legend, man. He's an icon and he's got a whole country behind him. When you're that kind of status, he almost is like the modern day Muhammad Ali in that sense. He really, really is. And I know some people don't like that comparison, but when you look at his global reach, he's probably as famous almost as Ali was back in the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's and that impactful to his people. So I think some of the Pacquiao fans are just crazy, man. I hate to say that. I just hate to, but why are you punishing Ugas? That man stepped in last minute.
That's right.
They say fought hurt with that bicep and did what he had to do, and he won the fight. So all credit to him. And he's one of the real good guys in the sport. I like Ugas a lot.
I like him too. And I think what's happening is people were served a hefty bowl of crow soup.
Yeah.
And they didn't give him a chance. So I think there's a little bit of this about that. I didn't make a bold prediction, but I don't know if you saw it, but what I was saying on Twitter was, don't be surprised if Ugas wins this fight because it was just stylistically wrong for Pacquiao, And
yeah, I agree.
Pacquiao,
I officially picked Pacquiao because I thought any close round, these judges, it was the WBA title. It's been going out with the WBA recently. So I just thought I saw 15-13, 16-12 Pacquiao win that some would see controversial, but Ugas clearly won. No controversy to me at all.
Past or present, who's your idol? Who's your boxing idol?
Oh man, there's too many of them. Look back here, man. Growing up in Detroit, man, Tommy Hearns, Thomas Hitman Hearns, Motor City Cobra. And I'm built like him because he had those long arms, those long legs, so I'm built like him. Arturo Gatti,
that's the name that doesn't get mentioned nearly enough.
Yeah, Arturo, man, just he a lot of people don't like that he's in the Hall of Fame because he wasn't this, he wasn't Pernell Whitaker when it came to defense, but the heart that dude fought with, and it's difficult. It's hard to describe it to like a young fan that's like 20 years old and just getting into the sport. But man, if you were one of the lucky people that watched Gotti Ward 1 live, holy shit. That was like Corrales Castillo watching that live, fights like that, Marquez Vasquez,
Ali Frazier.
Oh yeah. See, we didn't get to see that live, so that generation would say the same thing to us about that fight. But with, Gotti Ward, and then there were several other Gotti fights, man, he really was a human highlight film. And he left really a part of his soul in that ring. And I admire him a lot.
Speaking of Hall of Fame inductees, people don't understand with the other sports, football, baseball in particular, so much about your induction is about numbers. It's not the case with boxing. So much of course, wins and championships have something to do with it, but sometimes it's the aura of the fighter, what he said, the impact that he had at the time. And Arturo Gatti is one of those guys. I got into a little discussion on Twitter, but I was at work, so I really didn't want to delve into it. But somebody posted some pictures of like Naseem Hamed and other fighters that had they reached their potential. I'm like, what do you mean that they reached their potential? The guy won multiple world championships in 3 different weight classes, defended one of his titles 15 times. What do you mean he didn't reach his potential? Just because he retired after one loss?
Comments like that are crazy to me, man.
Yeah, one guy said, Rick Bout, didn't reach his potential. I'm like, what? The guy was
the heavyweight champion of the world.
Heavyweight champion of the world, undisputed lineal champion, Olympic gold medalist. What more did he reach his potential? Now, what you're saying is maybe he didn't maximize on the accolades.
Yeah.
Words have meanings. So reaching your potential and maximizing on the accolades are two different things. But I didn't want to get into it. And
do you know why that is though, man? Honestly, I think with a lot of the younger fans, there's so many titles now, dog.
Yeah, tell me about it.
There's so many titles. So many fighters now. I mean, like Adrian Broner is a 4-division champion, technically, right?
Yeah,
that used to really, really mean something. That was really rare back in the day, man.
that's right.
Now there's a dozen or so guys who have done it. So, when they see that Bo is the former heavyweight champion of the world, they're like, oh, well, what? He was the champ of the world. So what? So is Manuel Char right now, or Trevor Bryan. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
They don't understand. No, he was the champion of the world. You
yeah.
know what I'm saying? During a really good era. So yeah, they just don't have that perspective.
They don't. So, and there's a new sanctioning body that's coming up. That's coming. It's getting a lot of steam. It's called the TWC. Okay.
Really?
Yeah, the Twitter World Championships.
Shit, you had me, dog. You had me for a minute. I'm like, what?
So in the shit talking Twitter world, who's the champion? Haney, Garcia, Tank, Foley. Who wins that? Who's leading the shit talking?
You know what, man? Just in terms of just like delusion, that title goes to Haney, because this dude got his title with an email, and he ain't fought nobody. With Garcia,
Montero, he ain't holding back no punches, huh?
yeah, I know, yeah. I gotta put it out there.
Right.
At least Tank has fought a few decent guys, but even Tank, man, I mean, his resume is, dog, it's weak. And these guys, at least he puts butts in seats and everything. He sells tickets. Okay. Ryan Garcia, yeah, man, you got millions of TikTok followers, all these teeny bopper girls, how many of them are going to pay to buy tickets to your fight?
Or pay a $75 pay-per-view event.
Exactly. Yeah. So, none of that's correlated yet to boxing business. But yeah, man, I can't stand it, man, with the Twitter call outs. But it works. If I'm a huge fan of yours, if you're a fighter and I'm a huge fan of yours, and you tweet, hey man, I tried to make a fight with so-and-so, but they didn't want it, I'm going to believe you because I'm a fan of yours. Now, there might be some things going on behind the scenes that I don't know about that you ain't talking about on Twitter. You're leaving that out conveniently. But to me, I'm like, hey, my man's trying to get the fight, so I'm still going to support him. That's all fighters got to do now.
That's it. All right, Mike, last question. And the mythical pound for pound, a lot of people don't understand what pound for pound means, and it's just a mythical or catch weight, for lack of better terms. If all the fighters, all the skills met at middleweight, who would best who? So I'm going to go with the mythical skills for skills. Okay. So in the skills for skills, if tomorrow you woke up and you were given all the skills to compete in a prize fight, a prize world title fight, and actually win, who would you fight today?
Who would I fight
today?
So active fighter.
Active fighter.
So if I had all the skills in the world to compete against them, who would I fight?
That's right.
Canelo, because he's the top guy. If I could actually hang with him for more than 30 seconds, yeah, Canelo, because he's the top guy, right? His last fight, there was 73,000 people there.
That's right.
Right? So I'd want to fight Canelo. I want to do it in LA, Dodger Stadium. I'd want to try to pack, 70,000 people in there or something like that. Or you know what? We do it at that new football stadium in LA.
Yeah.
100,000 people. That's what I want, man.
Awesome. Well, listen, Mike, I thank you for a great interview. I thank you for taking some time for your busy schedule. Sit down and talk to me about such an important issue and why you're doing it, and obliging me in a little boxing talk.
Oh, it was great, man. We'll do this again.
The floor is yours, man. What's the last words?
Last words is, first of all, I tell everybody, do not take your family for granted. Maybe you haven't talked to your moms in a while. You haven't talked to your pops. You haven't talked to your sister, your brother, your cousin, whatever. Don't take that shit for granted. Pick up the phone. Let people know that you love them. If you have a family member that's struggling with mental health or addiction issues, don't yell at them. Don't tell them they're stupid or they're crazy. That's the worst thing you could do. The best thing you could do sometimes is just listen. They just need someone to listen sometimes, and to just pick up the damn phone and let them know you're thinking about them. There are ways to get help. And if you can donate to this cause, I'll send a link to Jacob where they could set, they can click a button. I think it's PayPal. It's through PayPal. Yep. And you could donate to this cause, to the Ridgeview Institute here. It is here in Atlanta where we can help people that are suffering, man. And post-COVID, you know, with the pandemic, the lockdowns, a lot of people got laid off from their job. Depression has skyrocketed, suicides has skyrocketed, addiction. So now more than ever, we need to reach out and help people. So, you know, if you can, check out my fight September 16th. But even if you can't, if you could donate to the cause, please do.
There you have it, fight fans. A great message from the great Michael Montero, who gives it to you straight in the boxing world and in life. Tune into this fight. I will be posting the links on the article that I'm going to write up from NewYorkFights.com. I'm also going to be posting the links here on this video. And I'm also going to share it on Twitter. So please don't miss an opportunity to make a difference in someone's life or make a change, even if you see it or don't see it. And support Mike in his venture as he takes on a fighter for a good cause. Mike, as always, man, thank you for coming on the show. Much. And I'll be there every step of the way to support you, man.
Thanks a lot, brother. And like I said, we'll do this again. And one of these times when I'm not fighting, we'll get together and have a beer and talk some boxing.
Absolutely. You know it, man.
All right.
Goodbye.